Here I am sitting on my front porch going to read to you a story from my latest book, Faith, More Than You Think, and it certainly is. There are 65 stories, and each one is illustrated with a full painting like that. So this subject is about Moses and civil disobedience. It's the story of when God rewarded some people for disobeying Homeland Security, CIA, and the FBI. So we're gonna get into that. Let me put my glasses on here because I'm not getting old. I'm 77 on my way to heaven, and I'll have to get a different shirt next week when I'm 78, and I won't be late. All right, here is the story, and it's in chapter 20, and it starts off in the middle of it. Here's the way we're going to read. The mothers of the Israelites were having so many babies, Pharaoh decided to mandate partial birth abortion as the law of the land. So Pharaoh called all the nurses in and told them to terminate the baby boys as soon as they were being born. But the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. That tells us a lot about the Israelites. They feared God, singular, not gods like the Egyptians. They understood God to be a singular, sovereign being, active in women's life choices, who holds them responsible for their actions. They believed life to be sacred and worth risking their own to preserve it. It also reveals they believed it was appropriate to disobey government, courts, and law enforcement, employing deceit if necessary, when human laws contradicted the laws of God. How would God view all that lying and deceit? Quote, Therefore God dealt with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty, and it came to pass, because the midwives feared God, that God made them houses, rapid care birthing centers. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, Every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive. So the citizens of Egypt were encouraged to keep an eye out for any male child. I don't doubt there were some twisted patriots made it their mission in life to save Egypt from too many Jews. They slipped around listening for the cry of a child or looking for the fleeting passage of a mother holding a bundle in her arms. Finding one, if it proved to be a boy, they'd snatch the baby off and run to the river. God had his eye on one fetus, for he had plans for the boy that would be born. His parents were devout believers in the promises God made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents, because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's commandments. Moses' parents had faith in God's promises. They saw something in the child that set him apart from other children. He was a proper child. Proper is defined as appropriate, having all the qualities typical of the thing specified. Somehow they made a connection between God's deliverance of the nation and their child. Their faith was not in the child or in themselves. It was in the God who promised deliverance from Egypt and return to the promised land. They expected God to bless them as a people, just as he promised, and cursed those who cursed them. It was their confidence in God that kept them from being afraid of the consequences of disobeying the Egyptian Medical Association, EMA, and the Department of Homeland Security. That doesn't mean they experienced no fear. It just means fear didn't control their decisions. You know the story. After 3 months, the child's parents had to make other arrangements. I suspect Homeland Security was going door to door executing search and seizure warrants for any illegal baby boys. So Moses' mother made a floating basket like the kind you see used to carry laundry to the river. And she placed the child in the basket, concealed in thick reeds growing along the shore. She left the baby's older sister to stand off at a distance, keep an eye on the place where the basket was concealed. Then the unexpected happened. Pharaoh's daughter came to the river to wash and spotted the basket. Finding the beautiful baby, she fell in love with him. For the Bible says he was a goodly child. Moses' sister drew near to the women doting over the child, and she must have heard one of the maidens say, "How are you going to feed him?" So the little girl rushed over and announced that she knew a mother who'd recently lost her baby to the purge, who might be persuaded to nurse the child. Thus Moses' mother became her son's caretaker in Pharaoh's household. It was a well-kept secret. So Moses was raised by his faith-filled mother, where he learned of the God of Abraham and how to speak, read, and write Hebrew. So that's one part of one story. And Faith More Than You Think, a new book. And we're going to talk a lot about gifts of healings, gifts of tongues, faith miracles. We're going to talk about modern times. We're going to tell Bible stories, and through them you're going to come to see some of the eras of the church today. And you're going to find out how to have biblical, godly faith.